Good morning, welcome back to the channel. I'm Megan, the Healing Foods Coach, also known as the Faithful Fibromyalgia Warrior. Welcome back. Good to have you all here. It is Saturday, the 18th of October. I am in one of the rooms of my new place. Hope you're all doing well. To all my fellow fibromyalgia warriors, or perhaps you are struggling and fighting on with chronic illness of some other kind. It could be an autoimmune condition, perhaps it's mental health issues, perhaps it's overall aches and pains, whatever it might be. Welcome back, and thank you so much for coming back to my channel. So today my question for everybody to think about is carbs. Now that might seem a bit random, or maybe not. I mean, after all, I am myself a carnivore and I eat zero carbs. And there are many of you out there who might be on a low carb keto or carnivore diet that does allow for some low carb fruits and vegetables, perhaps some milk and dairy products, and therefore we have to keep track of the carbs we eat. So maybe that's not such a strange question. But this is why I thought of it. I know that there are some, apparently, out here in this space, be that keto, carnivore, or very low carb diet space, who have announced that they've tried adding back in some carbs into their diets. Now, let me first start by saying this. Just as we all have the freedom to choose what we want to believe in, what we want to listen to, what we want to read, watch, or what kind of groups we're part of course, we have free will, and that certainly includes the foods we want to eat and the foods we want to remove from our diets. We all have that freedom of choice. But my question through all of this is, if somebody's decided to add back carbs or reintroduce things to their food, to their foods that they eat, to their diets, that had previously caused them problems, my question is why? And it's a legitimate question. So if you've started down a path of low carb, or more likely keto or even carnivore, because you've been dealing with chronic health conditions, or maybe your health hasn't been as chronic as it might have been, but perhaps you're dealing with obesity, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Maybe you're heading towards hypertension. Maybe you've just been told that your cholesterol is getting quite high, or your triglycerides are really high, and you really need to be careful of what you're eating. Whatever the reason, you've made a decision to cut out processed junk food loaded with added sugars and seed oils. And you've probably also had to cut back on just carbs in general. And if you have, then my guess is you've started to see improvements in your health, which is great. Whether they are major or just minor because you're only just starting out. You're starting to see some improvements. You're losing some of that extra weight that you don't want to carry around. Whether that is somebody who's chronically dealing with being overweight or obese, maybe you're also going through menopause. If you're a woman of a certain age and you've gotten that menopause weight and you're cutting things out or you're cutting back because you're trying to get rid of that excess weight. Especially if you're like me and you've just come out of menopause and now you're postmenopausal. And again, your hormones are now different from what they were years ago. Whatever the reason, you've made a decision to cut things out of your diet. So why would you go back and try to put them back in? And that's more of a rhetorical question, although I think I've come up with at least one good answer. And the first one being, it's often, at least my personal experience is, it's the foods we seem to love the most that we try so desperately to reintroduce time and time again because we simply don't want to give them up. Not because there's necessarily any benefit to having it, but we just really enjoy it. So what do I mean by that? Well, I think you guys might remember a video I made at the end of the summer where I had decided to allow myself a couple of small spoonfuls of blueberries. Literally, like 5 or 6. They looked so fresh. My husband is keto and he enjoys those with some full fat, full fat Greek yogurt. That's a snack for him. It helps him overcome his sweet tooth cravings and binges. Works great for him. But one of my favorite fruits of all time has always been blueberries. And I've lamented the fact, this year more so than ever, that I haven't really been able to enjoy them. Now, I don't eat plant material because of my severe IBS. Makes it horrible. I also don't eat milk or dairy products or consume milk or dairy products other than butter because I'm lactose intolerant. And while I didn't go all the way out and have yogurt, I decided the blueberries look so nice. Let me just try one or two. Let me just try one or two. I missed the taste. Let me see if it tastes as good as I remember. And of course they did. But the thing I forgot is that even though they're not overly sweet and they're very low carb as far as fruit goes, there was just enough sweetness and just enough carbs in them to trigger a hunger craving. And I had to have more. And so 2 blueberries became 5, which then became a spoonful, which quickly became 2 small spoonfuls. And within 15 minutes of that, I was bloated and gassy. My joints started to ache and I felt awful. And my rosacea flared up almost right away, just from 2 small spoonfuls of blueberries for me. And you know, the crazy thing is that a couple days later, I once again tried to have 1 or 2 blueberries. Same thing happened. And I realized I absolutely can't have them. They are triggers for me. They did 2 things. One, I had the craving to eat more and more when I really wasn't that hungry. So they fed my cravings for more food. And they made me feel awful. And so again, I do ask the question, for those people, especially those bigger influencers who are talking about adding in some carbs to their diet. Why? Now, again, let me reiterate and emphasize, they can eat whatever they want. It is up to them. They know their own bodies. They know what works, what doesn't work. So if they've healed enough, they're not talking about adding in popcorn and ice cream and pizza and cake. No, of course not. They're not talking about processed, highly refined, highly addictive carbohydrates. They're not. They're clearly talking about things like low carb fruits, maybe some low carb vegetables, some dairy, or some milk products. Okay, that's what they're talking about. But having said that, I would imagine if they've had to give those things up, it's because probably they've had gut issues or sensitivities. Likely, they also had an addiction to carbs. And the problem is, even if you start with just 1 or 2 things, if you have that tendency, which is probably why you have to give it up in the first place, having even a small amount is just going to cause a knock-on effect. It certainly does with me. And I suspect it does for most people, which is why they give these things up completely in the first place. It would be kind of like if you were to give up smoking, right? And you don't smoke any cigarettes, you don't vape, nothing, for say 4 or 5 years. And then one day you decide to see, hey, I wonder if I could have just 1 cigarette. And then just every once in a while, just to enjoy it. But why would you? It's not doing you any good. Now, I know this is an extreme case, but still, you would give up the cigarette. Why would you go back? You know that nicotine is highly addictive. It's meant to be. You know that it's not good for your health. And you know that if you quit it because you used to smoke 3-4 times a day, every day, that you had an addiction and it wasn't good for you and you quit. So why would you then want to try to go back and gradually reintroduce cigarettes into your body? You wouldn't, obviously. Of course not. It's a ridiculous thing. Yet we seem to forget carbs, whether it comes in the form of highly processed sugary treats and highly sugar-filled, fructose-filled fruits, or whether it's other types of carbs, the starchy kind, the processed, full of seed oils kind, have both got similar effects on the body. Some are more addictive than others to different people, but they're still not great for us. So that's why I posed the question, why would you want to try to mess with something? So for me, I've been carnivore just over 5 years. Other than the blueberry moments this summer, 0 carbs, none. No desserts. Well, that's not true. When I first started, when I was first transitioning, I gave in and had desserts a few times, and they were lower carb. But having said that, for the last 4 years solid, 0 desserts, 0 sugary treats, nothing. No carbs of any kind. And I feel great, and I feel amazing. And it is what I think has been the biggest reason that I've been relatively speaking, I've been able to kind of sail through menopause. I think I put on maybe 6 pounds or 7, which But it's pretty much all come off now. Just over time, just sticking with carnivore, walking when I can, trying to stay low stress in my life. My rosacea is a separate thing, but it's also triggered by the fact that I work in a highly stressful call center. So that doesn't help. But it's mostly gone. And all my other health issues have stayed managed and resolved and under control as long as I remain carnivore, as long as I keep the carbs out and keep my stress levels as manageable and as low as possible, which it's life, it doesn't always happen. But if it's all been working for me to not eat carbs, I personally have no desire to ever try carbs again because I know how I react and I don't want that. And I can see what keeping them out has done, the benefits, the pluses, the bonuses. And so I kind of wonder why people would bother to try these things when the main reason most of them had to give them up is because of the severe negative responses and consequences they suffered when they ate them. Don't know. I don't have an answer, just something I'm pondering. So again, please hear me. If you want to try to see if you can reintroduce stuff, if you have a healed gut and you want to introduce healthy carb choices like low carb vegetables and fruits on occasion, like full fat milk or dairy products. You know what? The one thing I do miss at this time of year is a really nice, beautifully made decaf cappuccino. I miss the nice foamy milk on the top. But I know if I have it, that's it. Rosacea everywhere. And the brain fog and the headache and the swollen joints in my wrists are within 5 minutes of drinking one. It is simply not worth it for me. So I do miss it, but it is not worth it. But other than that, honestly, I don't understand why people try to go back when they know it's not going to help them and why they felt bad in the first place. But that's just me. I mean, I get it. It's because we love these things. We want to see if we can maybe make it work. Honestly, it up until last year, I was drinking my coffee as cappuccinos or with milk all the time. I always had dairy in my coffee. I always did. I knew how bad it was for me with my lactose issues, but I was still drinking it. It wasn't until I finally got rid of it and started drinking black decaf that my gut started to feel so much better. So I understand, and I get the appeal of the foamed milk or the whipped cream or whatever it is you have on your coffee. I get that. I do. Trust me. But is it worth it? I would hesitate to say, or not hesitate to say, sorry. I would be quick to say that no, it doesn't seem to be. And hey, if people want to try an experiment to see for themselves, obviously no judgment. I kept trying on and off for several years to get my body to tolerate dairy so I could enjoy a cappuccino. Didn't work. I tried desperately to get those blueberries to be okay so I could enjoy them in the summer. Didn't work. And I suspect there's a lot of you out there like that. I mean, this is definitely me. I think there's probably a lot more people out there who are like that. So are carbs, low carb, real fruit options bad? No, they're not. But let's be honest, if most of us have gone carnivore, it's because they're bad for us. Not because they're bad or wrong, because they're bad for us. And so please, if you are going to try to experiment and see if you can reintroduce these foods, please do it very, very slowly with very, very small amounts. Because if you're anything like me, your carbs were consumed because you had an addiction. I certainly did, most likely. And on top of that, you also didn't tolerate them very well. So if you are going to try, of course, no judgment. And who knows, maybe you have healed enough that you can enjoy these things now. In which case, you are so lucky, you are so blessed. And honestly speaking, I'm a little bit jealous. But please be careful. Please take small amounts if you're going to try it, just so you don't trigger yourself. If it turns out that you are and you do, that's okay. It just means you might want to step it back and leave it off. Again, as hard as that might be. But I know personally, I'm so thankful to God that I have all this healing, truly, every day. In spite of the stress of my job, I'm thankful to be able to go to work again. I really am. I'm grateful for all that I have, truly. And I say that with sincerity, as I'm sure you guys are too. But for me, the healing and the health is so worth keeping. I am not experimenting again at all with any kind of carb. Personally, as I say, that's just me. That's me. I know there are lots of people out there who can tolerate some low amounts of carbs, be it fruit or veg or milk and dairy products. And if you can and you're feeling amazing and you're thriving, awesome. That is fantastic. I mean, I think ultimately, again, for those who also believe in God or whatever your higher power might be, I'm going to say God because that's what I believe in. But I personally believe that God's plan and desire for us is to enjoy our lives and our health to the fullest we possibly can for the brief time we have on this earth. And so whatever helps you do that enjoying good health, physical and mental health, do that. And hey, as much as you guys support me, I support you as well. So that was just sort of my thinking, my pondering, my question, my query, if you will. I don't quite get why people would go back if they've already confirmed and proven to themselves that there are things they can't eat because they don't tolerate it. That's just me. But whatever. If they can and it works and they're happy and healthy, go for it. That was it for today, guys. It's a longer one. I know it's going to be busy again this coming week, but I will try to put content up as much as I can. Thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you so much for always being there, always being encouraging. Really appreciate it. So that's it for me for now. I will try to have more content soon. It might not be till next weekend, but if it is sooner, then I will definitely put it up there. You guys are amazing. You're the best. Thank you so much for all of your incredible loyal support, especially those of you who've been with me from the beginning, almost 5 years now. You guys are truly amazing. All the best. Enjoy your Saturdays as much as you can, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Lots of love. Bye for now.